Okay, so we're going to be going over NIST AI. We're going to be using the Lionfish platform to look over all of our different controls. The Lionfish platform allows you to track all of your tasks, schedule tasks. It has policy examples. Um, it has all the controls. It also tells you which controls are similar to other controls so that you can use them in a cross-functional manner. Um, you have the ability to mark them as done. You can share the controls with other parties like your board of directors or your colleagues or whatever. And you can also you know use this as a tool that will help you achieve compliance and then maintain compliance by having updates and checks and things like that against these controls. So today we're going over the AI risk framework, and one of the things that I was doing last week was we went to the government site NIST.gov and we found the AI risk management framework draft. It's the second draft. It just came out in August of 2022. And in it, it tells you basically step by step what it is that you're going to be working on. It gives you the definitions of what risk means to the government and how it perceives risk and how like right here in 3.1, it tells you how risk is described, what risk does, and how it works. So in each of these sections, it goes over, you know, who the audience is, what, some diagrams. This is something you should read before you should read cover to cover. Basically, that's not many pages. But we stopped off last week at risk measurement challenges for AI risk. So what risk is, once you've defined it, then you're going to be able to understand how to measure it based on this descriptor here. You're also going to be able to understand what risk tolerance is, and the risk tolerance is how much risk you can afford to endure before you have an incident, and that's what we want to avoid is an incident. Incidents are trackable events that occur due to the fact that risk that you've breached your amount of the risk tolerance that you can endure. So if you have risk of a person potentially selling secrets to another company, and you have a DLP, data loss prevention, in place, and it is working, and you see someone sending emails to one of your competitors with data in it that you know that that is proprietary to your organization, that would be an incident. And so you may have said, okay, risk tolerance is that level. If something is sent out, maybe it was a diagram of something, or if it was just someone who knows somebody at another company and they were just talking to them, your risk tolerance is pretty high. You're like, wow, we should keep an eye on that. And then if they send a diagram or some sort, then you're like, I have an incident, and then you have to deal with that incident and resolve it. But with AI, we're going to talk about AI for a second again. What is AI? It's not the rise of the machines. AI is just pattern recognition on behalf of a machine or a computer. So if a computer recognizes a pattern or a program recognizes a pattern, that's the foundation of AI. So if you have a machine or a server or a set of machines or a cluster of machines that could understand the difference between a pattern and another pattern, two different patterns, it will it will be able to act on that the recognition of that pattern. And once you have it acting on recognition of that pattern on a regular basis, once the patterns are very close or similar to one another, uh, if AI is able to identify the one pattern from another successfully, based on feedback you give it, positive feedback. So if you have a if you have a blue dot on a piece of paper and risks are on, in a GIF or a GIF or whatever, a JPEG, and the AI recognizes it, says that blue dot is the sky. Well, it could be. If you tell it yes, it will take that into account the next time it sees a blue dot. If you say no, it's gonna try to, it's gonna ask for another piece of information. And if you give it another piece of information, like a white dot that looks like a cloud or something like that, and then it'll ask you again, is this the pattern that equals sky? It has white and blue dots in it. If you tell it yes, then it will keep that in mind. If you say no, it'll ask for more data. And the process that I just described is called machine learning. So once the machine has identified more and more patterns, it then can run programs based on those patterns. So if it recognizes those two things as a being in the sky, it can then use its engine, or it can run a script. It can do something or another thing. So once machine learning takes place, AI um, will do a task, like perform a task. And why do people think that AI is dangerous? It's because if it doesn't understand the pattern properly, it may react to it incorrectly, and that would create a risk, right? If it thought the blue dot or 100 blue dots and 100 white dots meant cloud and sky, and then it took action, and that action was to spin up 30 servers, or make it so that those 30 servers were to shut down and you were to lose productivity, or you were to gain an increased bill for no reason, that would be a risk to you. So there are things that AI is going to do for you. It's going to anticipate, or it's going to recognize a pattern. Like if there's more purchases occurring for a particular product in your environment, if you have AI pointed at that pattern, you may have it order more raw materials. And so if it doesn't recognize that pattern correctly, and you order more raw materials and you don't need them, then you're going to incur bills that you didn't expect, and then that's going to cause you that's going to be a risk that creates an incident. So teaching your AI, bringing your AI up to so that the patterns that you have in your environment, or the patterns that you recognize as being patterns that you want to adopt, um, so that the AI will learn against, will create an environment that where there could be risk. If it makes a mistake, because it's learning, when you learn, you're not always getting it right every single time. When you learn, you're getting it wrong some of the times. If you're learning with your AI and it's learning and it's failing, then you're creating an opportunity for there to be an incident, and the opportunity of that incident is called risk. And the ability for you to tolerate those risks is part of this framework. So they want you to be able to understand what your risk is, and to be able to define how much risk you can tolerate before there's an incident. Risk perspectives, basically, what your approach is, um, to what your risk is going to be, your organizational integration of risk. So like I said, what is your organization willing to tolerate, operationally, um, in your environment. So if you're going to have, raw materials being ordered, um, how it orders it, what method it uses to order those raw materials, how are they integrated with your AI, and how can you potentially have safeguards in there, Because if it's going to order 100,000 units of chlorine for your raw materials, maybe that flags an issue with your with your vendor, and they come back to you and say, okay, someone just posted an order for 100,000 100,000 containers of chlorine. Is that okay? Is that something you want to do? And you're like, wow, why is that? And you need to go back and say, okay, this was ordered by our AI. Why was this ordered? And then you got to go analyze it and from an organizational perspective, why it happened. They go over AI risk and transparency and trustworthiness. Um, they want you to make sure that your environment is secure and resilient. There's accountability and transparency in that the AI is open. It's not, what it's doing is not a secret to anyone. It's not something that's going to cause something. So like if it's ordering chlorine, or it's able to order chemicals, that you don't keep this private from the organization, or you don't keep it private from the engineering team. Everything is transparent. It can order chlorine, um, and that's okay as long as you're able to completely describe how it's going to work. And then they have examples of that, how you can be secure, and what security and transparency resilience means, so on and so forth. And then human factors that come into effect, and how you can integrate humans into the AI lifecycle. You want to make sure that your AI is as your machine learning is occurring, you want to make sure that your AI is valid and reliable. It would be something you would want it to do anyway. You wouldn't really want it ever to be invalid or unreliable. And if it was, it would create risk. That would create an incident. So, I mean, this is the core component of what they're talking about. And then safety. Um, it's if it's going to create harm, um, it's really hard to have AI cause harm to humans or cause harm to life, but it could happen in the sense that maybe you have an AI that's capable of manipulating, heating and cooling, or air conditioning, or in areas where, if the AI recognizes that there's a pattern of weather, and it makes a mistake and turns off your heating, and that could potentially, across like hundreds of your apartment buildings that you own or your company owns, and it automatically turns off the heating for all those people because they're all contiguously connected to your infrastructure. Then you could potentially cause harm to people. That's just an example. I mean, there are other examples in a war fighting situation where AI, a drone could fire a missile at a friendly target, and kill people, based on patterns that it incorrectly recognized. So if you have incorrect patterns and it shoots a rocket at friendlies, then it's gonna harm human life. Having AI, independently acquiring targets is probably not the best idea. You'd want to have some human intervention in there where you would say, uh, have somebody confirm the target or give permission. I know this is something that is in effect now. You usually don't have like drone pilots going off on their own and selecting targets and firing on them. They usually have to get permission from a source, whether it's their commander or an outside party like the CIA or whatever, and they're getting permission to attack targets. Then that's going to be, that's a safety measure that's in place. If you just gave the AI the capability of saying, okay, there's 60 people gathered together here. That's a pattern I recognize as a meeting of too many people, maybe in this particular area at this particular time. Whenever these meetings occur of more than 50 people, then I'm going to take action, like fire a missile into it. So those are extreme examples. Usually we don't have uh, attack drones as part of our business, but that's what they're referring to here in safety. Fairness. Again, if you're going to have a system like maybe you have a AI that plays poker against other players and it does so in an unfair manner, you want to make sure that whatever your AI is doing is fair and that it makes it so that it's not cheating you or harming you in any way. It's being fair and it's doing so in a way that is palpable and it does not use prejudice or impartiality or discretion to choose its activities. You want to make sure that your AI is secure. That means your infrastructure needs to be locked down, encryption, data loss prevention, SIM, RMM, remote monitoring and management, antivirus, which is EDR, endpoint detection and response, maybe mobile device management, firewalls, access rules. You want to make sure you have all those things in place that protect your AI from being attacked or compromised. Again, transparency and accountability. You want to make sure that everything is clearly defined, that you're not making, you're not using your AI to send out spam or do something that's not and that no one is aware of. Explainable and interpretable. You want to be able to show what your AI is capable of doing, and you want to just give it all the algorithmic integrity that it can be used so that you can show that here's what my AI does and here's how here's how it understands patterns. And that you want to make sure that whatever data your AI is accessing is privacy is taken into account. If you have GDPR or if you have HIPAA, PCI compliance, that your AI is able to observe those particular types of frameworks as well. So basically, it goes on to describe core profiles, how governance is done, how to map out your AI, how to measure the risk that your AI is performing, managing it. You have risk management profiles that you can create, and then the appendix. So basically, this document is really helpful. It'll go over what you need to do. It'll go over all the different parts of your risk management profile that you need to be aware of, and it describes them all. So it's really good. Now let's go into some of the controls that these talk about. Legal and regulatory requirements involving AI are understood, managed, and documented. So that was the document we just looked at. So if you look at that document and you paste it in here as as your evidence that you understand what's going on with AI, how to understand, manage, and document it. That's what we just went over. You can meet that control number 1 with that particular document and that particular framework. The characteristics of trustworthy AI are integrated into organization policies, and procedures. So that risk management profile, you're going to take parts of it and you're going to make sure that your current policies and procedures include now that you observe the tenets and the controls that are described in the risk management profile. So you want to make sure that you do that with your current controls and processes. Processes and procedures are in place to determine the needed level of risk management activities based on the organization's risk tolerance. So if you have a certain level of risk tolerance, you can take a certain amount of risk that you want to make sure your processes and procedures that are put in place that make sure that tolerance level is what you're doing. So if you have your hiring process and your AI is looking through and making decisions on who you're gonna, candidates that you're gonna hire, you're gonna want to talk about how your AI is able to go in and put patterns together that recognize potential risk for a person that is not going to work out as a candidate for your organization. So in your hiring processes, you want to make sure that you outline the fact that you use AI to be able to determine, appropriate candidates to hire. And if it picks out the wrong candidates, you know, is your risk tolerance very high there? Yes, because you have the power to, circumvent that with a human. If you don't have the power to circumvent it with a human, that's going to be something you want to describe in detail. So, what would an example of that be? Is if it recognized malware or ransomware, and if it makes a mistake and ransomware slips by, then your tolerance level is very, very low. You don't want to be able to tolerate that at all. So you want to understand that your AI is constantly being updated and upgraded with the current virus tools and machine learning algorithms that it understands and works with. The risk management process and its outcomes are established through transparent policies, procedures, and other controls based on the organizational risk priorities. You can suck that out of the document I showed you. You can get your risk management process. Your risk management process is an approach that you're going to take to risk. I have a risk approach document that Jeremy could share with you, and it describes how you're going to approach risk. So there's your risk approach, your risk methodology, your risk management framework. You have a lot of documents here that you're going to use to be successful and push forward your risk management process and make sure that outcomes that from your risk management process and your risk approach are transparent to your policies and procedures. Your policies and procedures are like your security policy, your your password policy, your mobile device policy, your bring your own device policies. These policies can all be affected by risk. And if you have AI that touches any of them, you want to make sure that you tell everybody how AI will, what patterns that AI are going to recognize, what's going to occur if a pattern is recognized by the AI according to some of your policies. So if a person in your organization tries to log in from two different locations, one in Spain and one in Argentina, the AI will recognize that as a pattern that is unacceptable. And it's called an impossible login. So what happens is that you have this impossible login and you can't be in two places at the same time. So the AI may shut down your account. And that might be one of your procedures. That might be a policy that says, look, if you're in two places at the same time, our AI will recognize this and it'll take action. It'll shut down, quarantine your account or shut down your account. You want to make sure everyone's aware of this in your policies and procedures, that you describe it thoroughly, that you say, look, I use AI to discover impossible logins. And my policy is that when I do discover a possible impossible login, that I shut your account down temporarily until I can resolve the scenario. Ongoing monitoring and periodic review of the risk management process and its outcomes are planned, organized, roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, including determining the frequency of periodic review. And that's where this product, Lionfish, comes into its own. That's where this product is really helpful. This is where you have all your risk management processes and procedures. They're all in here, and that's where you can assign tasks to individuals, how you can organize your risk management framework, how you can give responsibilities to people, roles, and then you could create scheduled events, tasks. There's a task manager up here, right here, where you can create tasks for RMF members and roles and team members. And again, there's a calendar where you can appropriately periodically review and have periodic reviews in here and assign the review and include people in the review that are included in your groups and send out messages to them. So this product achieves this particular control. So without it, you're going to have to do that like with a different mechanism, maybe Outlook or something similar, or SharePoint, or build your own thing. But I would use this product, and that's what I would do. Mechanisms are in place to inventory AI systems and are resourced accordingly to organization risk priorities. So AI is going to run on a CPU or in RAM intense environment. You're going to have it either you're going to use it from the cloud possibly. You're going to borrow AI from Azure or Amazon or Google. They all have their own AI systems. You can also have your own internal AI uh, system. You can use an IBM AI system that you can buy and put in your building. But if not, you want to make sure that what you're using, what resources you're using, what you're paying for, are outlined in a document, and that you understand if you have if AI is going to need more resources, it's going to need more um, compute power, more RAM, more disk, more whatever it needs, that you understand that that incurs cost. Or if you have it in an environment that's on-prem, that you have to purchase additional equipment, and it may delay the amount of the or may delay the abilities of your AI to accomplish its goals based on the fact that you're waiting for resources to arrive. Or you need budget, or you got to get approval of budget in order to increase the capacity of your AI system. That should just be a policy. It says mechanism, but I would make it a process or a policy document that said that if A happens, if we need more resources than we do B, it could just be you get an approval for the increasing of more resources, and that once that approval or change control is put into effect, that you're able to get that, and that how much risk you can tolerate if the AI is processing a 10,000 is it looking at 10,000 different transactions, and it's slowing down, and you're not getting your reporting back as fast as you would like, or it's not taking actions as quickly as it can. um, you may need to increase your resources, and if you do, then you need to get somebody to approve it or buy more equipment, etc. Processes and procedures are in place for decommissioning and phasing out of AI systems safely and in a manner that does not increase risk or decreases the organization's trustworthiness. So if you have 10 servers that are your AI core, and you're running them, and you maybe need to decom a few of those machines because they're at end of life, or they're no longer supported, or they're not strong enough, and you're going to replace them. You want to make sure you put a system in effect that will say, okay, we're going to replace these with these. We're going to bring the new ones online. We're going to transition the AI system over to them on the weekend, and that you have all that process and procedures laid out, how you're going to do it, your plan, and in your plan you're going to want to have what's called a back out scenario, so that if it doesn't work, um, that you're going to be able to back out of it safely and go back maybe to the old system if the new system there's an error with it, or an issue with it. And that makes sure that if it has an effect on the safety of individuals, like it's managing air conditioning in a hot zone, um, because it's constantly using, it's algorithm to understand if it's using, it's going to be using air conditioning, and there's people there, and you turn off air conditioning, and people start suffering from heat stroke, or whatever, that you have it so that doesn't happen based on the fact that you're making changes, and that you want to make sure that the AI is, again, trustworthy. And AI trustworthiness is described in that document thoroughly. Roles and responsibilities and lines of communication related to mapping, measuring, and managing AI risks are documented and are clear to individuals and teams throughout the organization. So this particular product can identify roles and responsibilities, and it can hold documents that will allow you to understand what teams need to be doing, organizations need to be doing. Without this, you would have to maybe create a document that kind of entailed what groups you had, what roles there were, what responsibilities there were, and then you would have to map those out in a document, like an organizational chart that measured how AI risk affected or were affected by those roles and responsibilities. This particular product can do it for you. So Lionfish. So if you have this product, you can identify roles and responsibilities, and you can give team members tasks, again, schedule them, and you can also have policies and procedures in here that describe exactly what people need to be doing, and when they need to measure risk, and how often they do that. Again, tasks and calendars and user profiles and policy and procedure documents are fulfilled by this product, Lionfish. The organization's personnel and partners receive AI risk management training to enable them to perform their duties and responsibilities consistent with related policies, procedures, and agreements. So what you're going to want to do is create a PowerPoint presentation, and it's going to be a training document. It's going to be a slideshow. And within the PowerPoint presentation, you're going to do this. You're going to train people on risk management in the AI environment. You're going to train people on what roles and responsibilities are, what people's duties are, what the schedule is. Everything is going to be trained in this PowerPoint presentation. It's You could then transfer that PowerPoint presentation into like a cartoon-based learning program. They have companies online that will change PowerPoint presentations or even documents into like cartoon-like training sessions. But the lowest level of this is you have a PowerPoint presentation where you go through step by step what it is, how risk is managed, and you train everybody in your organization on this, and you give this training to them when they get hired. And then you'd probably have a refresher course if things change in your environment once a year. I would do that. I would give the risk management training to people once they were hired, and then maybe if there was a change, give it to them. Maybe give them an updated one. Maybe not the whole thing again, but just the updated components of it, and then include those updated components in the regular document for the next hire. So is this hard to do? No. It's like I said, PowerPoint presentation accomplishes this. You can just upload that evidence here and you're good to go. Executive leadership of the organization takes responsibilities for decisions about risk associated with AI system development and deployment. So, somebody in the organization is the CISO or the CIO is the fall guy, right? He is, if something goes wrong with the AI, and he has to take responsibility, you have to have a responsible party. So that's one of the roles and responsibilities in the organizational chart. In the previous controls, you're going to have a person identified as being responsible for risks associated with the AI. These are risk tolerance, risk thresholds, risk transparency, risk. He makes sure that everyone takes the training. He's basically the boss of the AI. You can have I guess, as a chief AI officer, CAIO. That is the person that you're going to have responsible and in charge of things. Just like you have to have a CISO and a CIO responsible for IT and security, and you need to have an executive who doesn't necessarily have to be only the CAIO, but he can also be the CAIO and the CIO, as long as you've identified the person who's responsible for defining risk, training, processes, policies, and procedures, and all the things that go into risk management for AI, then you're good to go here. Decision makings related to mapping, measuring, and managing AI risk throughout this life cycle is informed by a diverse group. So you want to have people from different disciplines, part of a board of directors, or like a little change control board that you create that go over the mapping, measuring, and managing of the risks. So once the executive produces that, you can have a board of diverse backgrounds agree with his plan, with his risk assessment, with his risk tolerance, and for each of the things that the AI is capable of doing. So if the AI is in charge of controlling what heating and cooling, then how low can it go? When can it be turned off? And if there's glaring issues in there, you want to make sure that you have enough people from different disciplines and experiences that someone may recognize, hey, what about this? What about if it goes below zero? Um, maybe does the AI is the AI going to recognize it? What if it doesn't? What if one day there's a freak storm and it doesn't recognize that as being a valid pattern? Because maybe those types of storms or maybe going from 90 degrees one day to 0 degrees another day is very unusual and it doesn't happen. And when it does, the AI will recognize that not as being a pattern. It won't take action appropriately. And maybe you're not storing, maybe you're not refrigerating humans, maybe you're refrigerating blood. And if the temperature goes over a certain number, then it takes action based on its pattern recognition and machine learning. It may destroy that blood, and you'd lose resources and so on and so forth. Policies and procedures are in place to define and differentiate roles and responsibilities, and for human AI configurations and oversight of AI systems. Using the Lionfish platform, you can accomplish that. It's not going to all be on the Lionfish platform to be able to do this, but you can leverage like the ability to create tasks and have roles and responsibilities, have policies and procedures in place. You may need to have a procedure about how to use the Lionfish platform and where things are and how and what responsibilities there are and what tasks there are as an oversight document. But you can use the Lionfish product to be able to support this particular control. If not, you're going to have to be able to create a lot of documentation, a lot more. That's going to describe all the different places that you're going to have, that you're going to be able to have your policies and procedures, where they're located, what they do, what roles and responsibilities there are, and all that needs to be in another place. Maybe it's in a SharePoint that you build, that you break out, but you're going to need to do that. You're going to need to create policies and procedures that differentiate the roles. Some of you may ask, what if I don't have enough people to do all these different things? What if I don't have enough? What if I don't have a lot of different roles and responsibilities? What if there's just me and my partner and we're building this AI thing together? Well, you can load on the responsibilities and the roles. You can load them onto one person. It doesn't necessarily have to be 10 different individuals in your organization. You don't have to have a person that does different tasks, but it is helpful to have more people involved. But you can pile on the roles and responsibilities. It is allowed. Organization policies and practices are in place to foster a critical thinking and safety first mindset in the design, development, deployment, and use of AI systems to minimize negative impacts. Again, if you have drones that are going to be dropping fire retardant onto flyers, and you want to make sure that you use a logical, critical thinking and safety first mindset. If you detect fire crews in the area, and you may not want your AI drones to drop retardant on those people, it might not be safe. You want to make sure that you build that into your design. You want to say, look, we want to have an ability for us to detect life or humans in that area based on what the AI recognizes a pattern. Maybe it's radio signals, maybe it's heat signatures, not so much with a fire in the area, but it may use other different ways of detecting if there's humans in the area. And if it does, it doesn't want to drop retardant on it. Maybe it comes back and says, is it okay to drop retardant on this area? I think there's people in there. And then you have a process in place that says, yeah, actually there are. Crew 56 is there. Do not drop retardant until, I reset you or whatever. So you want to create, you want to use critical thinking. You want to say, and safety first mindsets, you want to say, what's the chances of us dropping retardant on a group of firefighters? Is it high? What is the risk of that occurring? And then you want to be able to say, okay, let's think about how we can understand when people are in that area. Or maybe, we send out a notice that says this particular area is going to be hit with retardant. Do not go there until after it clears. So that kind of thing. So you want to do that. As just examples. You're going to have your own set of policies and procedures, best practices, critical thinking, risk tolerance based on what your product does. I doubt a lot of the products that you're going to create are going to be able to harm others, but if there's a chance of it, you want to make sure that's avoidable. I gave a couple like drones attacking humans, maybe drones putting fire retardant down. Maybe you have a scenario where heating and cooling can affect humans, that kind of thing. You just want to make sure that you incorporate safety as in your mindset when you're designing your AI. Organizational teams document the risks and potential impacts of AI technology they design, develop, deploy, evaluate, and use, and communicate about the impacts more broadly. So, again, because of the fact that you're being transparent, because of the fact that you have AI, board of directors, you have a process that it outlines how safety and critical thinking, which you kind of stole a little bit from the AI risk management framework document, which talks about how to ensure that there's safety and transparency. Because you use training, you're going to want to coalesce all that information into a document that says, this is how this is how our AI functions. Have like an AI policy document, which is an overreaching document that describes all the different components of your AI, how you observe safety, how you use critical thinking. And is there a huge need for you to think it out? No, the AI risk management framework describes it, so you could just steal, basically plagiarize the information from there. I mean, you don't have to copy it word for word, but you can take the principles from the risk management framework document and incorporate them into your best practices, your AI policy. AI organizational teams document they're okay. Okay. Organizational practices are in place to enable AI testing, identification, and incidents of information sharing. So this is your machine learning at its core. Um, how does your machine learning work? What patterns are you looking for? Do you test your AI? Um, you know, submitting asking your AI to put things together. Um, you know, uh, like for example, Chat GPT will tell you that you know that toothpaste is edible and it can be used in recipes. I mean, they're letting their machine learning go. Enough people are going to tell that Chat GPT that toothpaste is not used as an ingredient in food, and that you shouldn't be eating it. You could use it to brush your teeth, but it's not suggested that you eat it. It's not like you can't eat toothpaste. You can. It won't kill you. And so ChatGPT doesn't understand that. It doesn't understand that you shouldn't be eating toothpaste, even though it's edible, even though it contains components that could be used in recipes. It needs to learn. You need to test it. You need to eventually get to the point where ChatGPT is, or the AI that runs it, says no. You say, what's the best way to make chocolate chip cookies? It doesn't include toothpaste as a ingredient. Um, so you're going to want to make sure that you keep your eye on it, and that if it does use it, you have to learn, you have to teach them, the AI, that that's not appropriate, that's not a pattern that you recognize as being valid. Uh, because so from this perspective, the AI took a look at toothpaste, said it's edible, said it has the principles of being an ingredient in some sort of a recipe, and it comes out with a positive outlook. Now, is there high risk to what's the risk tolerance for consuming toothpaste? Probably, it's probably very high. You can allow for a recipe once in a while to include toothpaste as an ingredient. It's not going to be the end of the world. Anyone who has maybe half a brain will say, "Hey, toothpaste not really an ingredient we should be using in chocolate chip cookie recipes." They're going to say no to Chat GP. You have to tell Chat GPT or the AI. I'm just using Chat GPT as an example because it has done this. It has added toothpaste as an edible food. You're gonna have to teach it, and part of this is you're gonna have to test it and make sure that you identify. It would be an incident basically if it were to put if you were asking it for a chocolate chip cookie recipe and it included toothpaste as an ingredient, that would be an incident. That would be something where it would be like, no, that's not right. That's wrong. Is it going to harm human life? No. Is there a safety issue in there? No. Is tolerance high on it? Yes. But you want to identify the incident and say, okay, we have to make sure that we teach the machine that that particular pattern is not acceptable. And so that, and then therefore, moving forward, you won't see an immediate change. It will less and less. That's how AI will works. It'll say the patterns may come around again where it thinks that toothpaste is an edible item, and it may try to include it. If you tell it again and again and again, that's how something learns. It makes a mistake. If you keep telling your AI, no, no, toothpaste is not an ingredient. It is edible, but we don't eat it. So don't use it as an edible item. Don't include it in at like your safety kit. Uh, Not as an edible item, but as something that we need for to clean our teeth to maintain tooth health. So there's an example of something you're going to be teaching your AI. Now, if it's a drone that attacks things, that's a whole different story, right? If it makes a mistake, your tolerance level on that is like as low as it comes. So that's why you want to make sure that you test it out. You make sure that you're testing it to the point where it becomes so good that your tolerance level gets higher than very low. If it makes a mistake, it might miss a target based on a factor, and that's if that's not going to cause you issues, then you can deal with it. All right, we went longer because we're going to do more controls. Here we go. We got some questions here. All right, good. As a DoD contractor, if our SIM tool alerted about an employee running a script, is that an incident that needs to be reported to the DibNet? If your SIM tool alerts you, like your DLP tells your SIM tool that an incident occurs, yes. If incidents need to be reported, running a script uh, would have to mean that that script did harm to created you have a document or something that tells you that you have particular issue that creates an incident, and an incident is a breach of your security, definitely you're going to want to make sure you report incidents to when appropriately that occur. Now, is an incident every single time reportable? No, because you're going to have levels of incidents that an incident could just be that somebody's and doing an impossible login, right? Does that need to be reported? No. If the script they're running is creating an issue where data is being moved from one place to another that there's not supposed to be moved, that data is protected by it's NIST protected data, or it's CMMC protected data, or it's CUI, or it's FARS data or whatever, and that requires you to report it, then absolutely you do. You need to report it. See the executive order on the safe, secure, and trustworthy development and the use of artificial intelligence. Yes, yes. The more data, the more documents you have that you can use to help you, If an employee is allowed to run a script and is created by IT staff as part of the process, the case would not be reportable. Yeah, again, you're going to take into the fact that you're going to have scripts. You're going to understand what the script's doing. If the script is moving a CUI from one place to another, then you're going to, yeah, there's an approved response plan that you're gonna want to follow. But absolutely, if you have something that is reportable and a script is creating a situation where that reportable item, yes, then yes, you would. But if it doesn't, then no, you don't have to. Anybody else have any questions? All right, so yes, get this first risk framework management document ingested in your brain. If you know, understand that the Lionfish platform is super helpful, especially in identifying roles, tasks, calendar items, storing all your documents. I mean, this is just the best place to be for that information. And it has all of the controls. You can give people access to it that are auditors. You can give that board of people, the diverse team members, you can give all of them access in here. You can give them read-only access. You can give them the ability to upload and manage documents. You can, task them out with particular things. And Jeremy has training modules. One of the training modules in the future could be how to manage AI risk, and that could be in your training document area. If you ask him, enough people do. I'm sure he'll put one in there. You could have a training framework in there, and then you would be able to use that to train your staff. A lot of different trainings are in here, so you could leverage that in the future, I'm sure. But for now, I mean, use the Lionfish platform. Get that under your belt. You read the risk management framework document. Ask Jeremy for our risk approach document. That risk approach document is just basically how to get your head wrapped around how to think about risk and how to approach the risk environment. Um, get yourself into a risk mode. And because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how to do a risk analysis. I don't know how to do a risk methodology. I don't know my risk. We have a risk approach and a risk and methodology document, so you can get your mind straightened out on how risk functions and what risk means. And then of course there's the AI risk management framework. So you have all these different documents you can leverage from us, the framework, the approach, and the methodology. And then if you run risk analysis, I have a risk analysis document as well, where it's a template for risk analysis where you run it and figure out if you have risk, what it is, how to deal with it, how to classify it, so on and so forth. So we're your one-stop risk shop for information. All right. If nobody has any questions or anything like that, we will conclude for today. But we are going to go longer on these sessions to include more controls, because there's so many controls in this one. There's 40 or 50 more controls in here. So we went through most of govern today. We'll go over manage and maybe maps next week.
Hey, Gregory.
Yes,
this
sir.
is Jeremy.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Gregory?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my speaker went down. So we've got looks like we've got several here to finish. I don't know that you're going to finish next week based on that. What do you think we need to let everybody know we're going to be going out another week or two?
Yeah, one more week I think we'll do. I think I could get through. I'll do the rest. Yeah, I'll do I'll go through a little faster, since we don't need to go over the risk management document next week. We're just going to be hitting controls, and I think within an hour I can hit the next two sets of controls, and then I'll finish measure up in the next.
Okay. Well, I don't want to rush you.
No, you don't need to rush me.
Yeah.
I just don't have to go through the risk management framework document again next week. I might just talk about it a little bit and then hit the controls.
Okay. So
One more
next week,
Yeah,
So
one more.
next week is scheduled, so I don't need to alert everybody that we're gonna need another week, is what you're saying.
I would say one more week after next week. Yeah.
Okay,
I
all right,
can't finish in 1 week.
got it. Well, okay, thank you.
All
Hey,
right,
thanks for
thank you.
everything. Good job.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks. Have a good day.